Hello everyone and welcome back to Painting with Martin. Today we're going to I'm going to show you how to paint a kind of elven sorcerer or elven guardian or some sort, or any kind of guardian if you are not sure about the elves, because I'm not really sure, it doesn't really have the pointy ears here. So this is a miniature that some friends of mine picked up at a UK Games Expo about almost a month ago. And it's a really beautiful miniature, and it's a very basic one. So we're going to paint it in a very basic way using some very basic colors. So let's get to it. As always, we're going to paint it with either some base colors, some wash, and then some highlight and finishing touches. In this case, we're going to mostly skip the wash stage and the base stage, combining into one using contrast colors from Citadel. And you can use any other color you want. I'm just showing you one way to paint it. And for this one, I'm going to use to paint it in Leviathon, contrast Leviathon Purple. Give it a good shake like always, as it acts as a wash and a base color in between. Combined, sorry. So I'm using a kind of flat brush for this one. You can use a round brush as well. And you just put it back here. It has a very vibrant color on the back here. I want to try to avoid to touch the spear and her face if possible. I might switch to later to smaller brush to achieve those results. But the cloak here is covering most of the front figure as well. The good thing with the contrast color is it dries fairly quickly, making it ideal for videos such as these. Turning it to the other side and covering the other part of the miniature here as well. She is showing some skin over here, so I'm being quite careful with this one. And now it's about time to switch to a smaller brush to give you that stability. I'm going to switch into a size 1. You can switch to a size 0 as well if you like. To paint the upper part of the cloak, as well as her sleeves. Can take off my glasses here temporarily to see that I make sure that I get everything right. And inner side of the cloak here as well. Don't forget this one, the inner side. Sorry, I went a little bit off camera here, it happens. And everything around it here as well. Also notice there is an annoying fly in my room, so if you hear a buzzing sound, it's not me, it's the fly. It's also nice to have something to blame as well. If anything goes wrong, blame the fly. I'm going to paint the inner side here as well. The underside. You can leave it as it is if you like. I just like to make sure that it's covered. I primed this one using Vallejo Primer White. You can use it Vallejo Primer Grey if you like, or any other kind of white grey primer would work well. So this one works like this. Then putting it down, putting on my glasses, see what I have all my other paints, because I'm quite disorganized, but I'm going to go for this one. That's my arm here. I'm going to use for contrast Wyldwood for the staff, of course closing the paint jar, and then applying this one. You can apply any other color such as a rhinox hide or even mournful brown, or if you're using Vallejo, you can use something called flat earth, or chocolate brown. Flat earth is what I find a finer color, given the name of it. So taking off my glasses here again to make sure that I get maximum stability when I'm painting. I'm painting the staff over here. Oh, touch the fingers here by mistake. And all the way up here. And don't forget the other part here, which I accidentally covered with the, like this, looks up, went off camera again. So again, I'm painting it again so you can see, painting it like this, a little bit around the back here, and leaving this one for last when it comes to details. Now I'm going to paint her face and her, oh yeah, I can also, yeah, her face and her legs here. It could be seen as armor here. I'm not really sure if it's armor or legs, but I'm going to pretend that it's part of her leg. Cleaning the brush and then applying some Crusader Skin from Armypainter. It's a speed paint, acts the same way as a contrast paint. Putting it out here on my palette on the side and going to cover her skin best I could, best I can. All right, starting with the face. And if you want to paint another skin color, darker color, Rhinox hide or dryad bark is quite nice to start with. And now for her leg. Down like this. Hope you can see this. Trying to make sure that it's on camera. Leaving the shading in the recesses, of course. And then the boots. Cleaning my brush in the meantime. Boots, I'm going to go for a kind of leathery boots. Oops. Going to close this one and make sure that it's all closed. And putting on my glasses here again, on and off, as maybe I should get contacts. Would be helpful. For the boots, I'm going to use contrast snakebite leather. Another contrast paint. And give it a kind of nice leathery look. For this one here, maybe I should keep the model down here when I'm painting, so make sure I don't go off camera. Would be useful. So looks like this, fairly nice. I'm going to make sure that we're going to cover this one right now. And this one is not going to be a contrast paint because metallic paints are quite hard to use that one. You can mix them around with other colors, but we're going to use something called, first we're going to use Retributor Armor from Citadel. And it's a gold color, which is my favorite gold color. It has a very much darker finish than other colors, and I like this one because you can use it as a base. And I'm going to use this one for all the metal areas up here. And the back, of course, trying to make sure that you don't touch the cloak in any way. All right. And for the top part, I'm going to use some silver color, close in the paint jar as always. And then I'm going to use something called Chainmail Silver from Vallejo game color. Oh, something came out there already from the dropper bottle. There are normally two kinds of bottles. There is a dropper bottle like this from Armypainter or from Vallejo. Or there's this paint pot from Citadel. It can be a small paint pot or it can be a larger paint pot, which means you have to open it, dip the paint, dip the your mixing thing or your brush inside of it. With the dropper bottle, you can just squeeze it out to get exactly the amount you want. There are advantages with both of them. The advantage with this one is that, of course, you can choose to get out almost exactly what you want. There's no risk of getting too much paint out. The downside with this one is that the paint can sometimes cake inside the lid here, and means eventually the paints will run dry, and that's kind of a shame. That's happened to me a number of times and it's quite annoying. But the paint themselves are really good. Now I'm just talking about the bottles. Maybe this should be another video for that, but I'm thinking I can talk about this while the paint is drying, and I can also apply the paint here, as we said. And there's some Chainmail silver here. I already had it out. What we can do, because it's quite a dark, it's quite a it's not a very good color paint on white, so you can use some German grey and mix it in with that one, and then paint it over with. Which is what I'm going to do here. And then paint the silver over it. Here I realized I missed a small part with purple, but that's not a problem. We can cover it later on in the highlight stage. Something like this would be a nice even coverage. And as you can see here, the paint is almost entirely dried, which means that we're going to go back to paint the skin with some highlights. And for the highlight for the skin, I've chosen to use a skill called Kislev Flesh. I'm going to use a very small brush for this one, which is a 0 brush. And the special thing I have planned for this model is I'm going to cover half the face with a kind of a black hue. But first I'll cover the fingernails and the fingers here, as well as the skin of her leg here. Now I'll go back to paint let's see if I can angle it here. Normally you just paint the nose up here, the cheekbones, as well as the other, looking quite okay. And touching up some mistakes as I go along. And there we have it. And now, while the leather has already dried, I'm going to leave the leather as it is. It looks quite nice. But for the staff, I want it a little bit lighter to be contrasting off against the very dark purple. And I'm going to use a color called, not red leather, I'm going to use flat brown for this. Actually, no. What will I use? Flat earth would be nice, it's a good option. But let's go for chocolate brown. It's a nice color. You can also use Thondia brown. Actually, you're right. Thondia brown is a great option. Sorry for being back and forth there. Thondia brown from Citadel color. It's going to go great. It looks like kind of like milk chocolate. That kind of color. I'm going to use this one only for the staff here. I'm painting in between here because there's some edges here that I want to cover with maybe some silver as well. Okay, it looks quite okay. I think the purple is almost entirely dry. We can dry brush it. And I'm going to take an old brush for this. Actually, we're going to use a flat brush like this. And we're going to use a colour called Citadel's Naggaroth Night for this. Give it a good shake and dip your brush into it. And just as always, you wipe the paint off on a piece of kitchen roll till pretty much all the paint is gone, and all you have is kind of like this. You're aiming for this here, and you want to touch the raised edges here. Now you can also touch over area here. You brush it upwards. You can use downwards as well. You can see here the paint is not all the contrast paint is already there, but we can leave it there because it's one of the shadowed areas anyways, and we want a little bit of extra shadow there. When we've done this one, we can, if we want to, apply some extra drying technique here. Make sure that you don't mix any of the paints. Something like this. And then we'll use an extra dry brush using Genestealer Purple from Citadel as well. Same brush. Don't really mind it that it's a little bit with the Naggaroth Night on it. But you only want a little bit here. And you're going to be very, very light dry brush for this one to make sure that everything, the darker one, is actually showing right through. So you wipe pretty much all the paint off, like leaving almost nothing left. And then you do a selective highlight brush on the raised areas here, blending it nicely together. On the raised areas here, kind of like streaming down from her cloak, like veins. Use the front here as well. It's a really beautiful figure to paint for only £1. Can use a little bit more paint on the brush here. Make sure I get that vein effect that I'm looking for. And it has some intricate patterns here as well that you can highlight out. And you can only do that if it's a lighter dry brush. Looking like this right now, quite nice and beautiful. You see the patterns of the cloak, and here you can blend them together as well. And I left the contrast paint there, looking quite okay. And now let's go into some nice details. I like details. So use your tiniest brush, which is a size 0, and we'll see how this turns out. And size 0, we're going to use some black for this. Some Armypainter matte black. It's a quite liquid colour, and that's exactly what we want. I'm going to take off my glasses for this one, make sure that I get everything here. And you want to make sure that your paint is not loaded fully with this brush, with this one, but just right enough to get the intricate patterns of her kind of like tattoos here. Oh, here's the fly again. This time for the face, of which I want half the face with 2 streaks to simulate the things in her face as well. Something like this. Dark elves. That's how I envision it. And she has a pattern on her cloak as well. And for this one, I'm going to try, I'm not sure if I'll succeed, to actually do a very light dry brush with some gold here as well, which is something I rarely do, using Retributor Armor for this one. And not cleaning my brush in between, making sure that there's a little bit of purple left here as well. And let's see how this one pans out. Not great, not terrible. Looking like this. Like this, quite nice. And then finally, time for the cleaning brush, of course, after this nice job. And now time for fixing some mistakes. We've got some, no, it's quite okay. We are going to paint the silver thing here, which is going to show much nicer now with the dark color. Now you can choose to paint a wash over this gold if you like to, and then I would recommend Seraphim Sepia Wash for this one, and then apply another highlight with a gold over it. And I'm not going to do this for this video. I want to keep it quite brief for you guys, and just showing you that it can be done. And I'm using neat this one, Chainmail silver. And as you can see before, it looks much nicer compared to painting it straight on to the white primer. You need a black or dark background for this one. And oh yeah, I will also have this one for the tiny bits here, just on the staff. Just a little bit showing as the details. And there you go. painting the details here again. If you didn't see it, here, here, and here, and there you go. This is Dark Elf Wizard Sorcerer. Cheap mining from UK Games Expo, £1. Thank you everyone for you who have watched so far. If you learned something, please don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And if you liked it even more, give it some likes, spread the word, share, and leave a comment if you like. Until next time, thank you very much for watching, and for all those who subscribe to my channel so far, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure so far, and I love painting these videos for you guys. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.